Hello, hello, and welcome to the My Sugar Free Journey podcast. I am your host, Aaron Farmer, and today we are talking to Cory Conklin. So, Cory is the owner and founder of Select Savory Seasonings, and this is an excellent business. I can't wait for you guys to learn about. I've gotten to try some of their seasonings over the last couple of weeks. Very, very tasty. So, just a little background on him. He's been using a low carb, Atkins style diet to try to control his weight. He went from a high of 280 pounds to a low of about 190 pounds, and eventually started using keto to control his weight. But he wanted a line of seasonings that would help him flavor his meat and make everything taste delicious. So he came up with his Select Savory Seasonings line, and I think you guys are going to enjoy hearing this story. So, Cory, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be a part of the show.
So before we get into the business that you're running, I kind of wanted to ask you a few questions about you, because your story sounded very similar to mine. You were someone who was very big and has been using low carb to control their weight. So let's kind of get into your background. I know we mentioned your high of 280 pounds. What was your background like? What do you think made you get up to that weight? What was your life like before finding low carb?
Before, actually, back my early 20s, I'll even back up. Overall, I was the bigger kid in school. I wouldn't say I was really overweight, but I always knew I was larger than everybody else. Played soccer in high school, so somewhat active. But as I got older, got out on my own, I kept getting bigger. My diet was whatever I felt like eating. So that would be a lot of fast food. Of course, your typical starchy foods that I'd make at home. Used to tease people I don't need a wife. I got big enough without one because I cooked so well. And in my early 20s, I did try a very briefly low fat. I think after 2 or 3 weeks, I threw it all away because it was just disgusting, and figured I'd just rather eat something that tastes good than worry about losing weight. And had read an article about Dr. Atkins, and like, I can eat this stuff. Sounds good to me. The typical, let me give it a try, give it 30 days, see what happens. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, would lose weight. But as usual, something would come up, usually a holiday, go home to visit my family. And, I'll have this meal or that dessert. And, a couple of months later, I've put all the weight back on and figure out what's the use. I never really had a good, why for losing weight other than, well, I just want to. And then, when I got up to my largest, it was just my job was on the road quite a bit. I was home every night, but it's get up early, out the door. Well, I don't feel like making lunch. So it was a lot of fast food that really got me up to that 280 pounds. Reminds me of it wasn't Saturday Night Live, but one of the late talk show hosts one day said, "Hey, these golfers use these belly putters and they're like $1,000. She goes, "Man, do you know how many Big Macs I could buy to get my belly to the putter?" And I always chuckled at that because I'm like, well, I've already done that. And it finally, I was married finally, and it's like, I need to do something. And so I got down to about 190 pounds from that high of 280. And then again, the holiday came up, and I probably put about 50 of that back on, which, again, didn't have a really good why at the time. It was just, I really need to. It would look better for my wife and so forth, and for myself. And I throughout all of it, there was just never a good why until, more recently.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how did you discover keto specifically?
I just, in doing research about low carb to really get back into it again, I can't say specifically where the word keto came from. I just know in doing some quick Google searches, it popped up, and that's what really started getting into it. And then it's like, okay, with work, I travel enough that I'm in the car for a couple hours a day. So I started searching for keto podcasts and started consuming a lot of information that way, which I think is a great way to do it. If you got the time, turn it on. There's so much good information out there. And that was probably early 2017 when I started listening to the podcasts and gathering that information. And then November of 17, my wife said, "Hey, let's see who can lose 10 pounds the fastest." And if you saw my wife, you'd say, "You don't need to lose 10 pounds." And she doesn't. And that's what triggered it. It's like, okay, well, not only do I have a wife, I've got 2 little kids, now are 3 and 5, or almost 4 and 5. And so I need to be there for them. I don't want to get into my 60s and 70s and say with my grandkids, go, Grandpa loves you, but I'm tired. I'm going to go take a nap. I can't go do that. I want to be able to get up and go and run and play. And I like to say I want to be Mark Sisson. I want to be, pushing 70 years old and embarrassing 20-year-olds on the ultimate frisbee field as I get older. And so my whys really started with family, and they go from there.
Yeah, it's no secret or it's no accident that my weight loss really started about the time that my middle son got his wife pregnant. So right around there, it was around that time that it was grandkid number 4, but for whatever reason that kind of a lot of different things fell into place all at the same time, and it was a new set of grandkids from a new kid. We have one set of grandkids from the oldest daughter, and then we have our second set of grandkids from the middle son, and it's when you look at pictures of me before, while she's pregnant, I'm still about 400 pounds. When you look at pictures of me when her name, we call her Little Bit, when Little Bit is just born, I was probably about 300 pounds, and now I'm about 240. And that's no accident. Family is a big motivator, and that's a big deal. So you've lost this weight. You're controlling your weight with diet.
Mm-hmm.
Why the seasoning business?
I actually several years ago got into smoking meat, and in years past, I would sit there and go to the store, grab a jar of seasoning, barbecue rub of some kind, and if you look at the nutrition label, it would say 0 carbs and 0 sugar.
Right.
Go down a little further, ingredients: sugar, brown sugar. It's always the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, and being a little naive, well, it says 0 and 0, so it must have must not really be sugar in there. And then as I started listening and learning, it's like, oh, wait a minute. They can fiddle with those numbers. If it's less than, 0.5, they can round it down to 0.
Yep.
Some people are honest and they'll put a little less than 1 sign, but most of the time they round it down. They keep the serving sizes small, half a teaspoon, so that it looks healthy with that nutrition label. And back then I said, no big deal.
Right.
December of 2017, after really learning more about keto and so forth, and after on Thanksgiving Day starting keto with my family, it's like, okay, I was out shopping middle of December and went, every last rub in this 8-foot wide, 6-foot high rack had sugar as a main ingredient. And I said, that's it. I'm not the only person who doesn't want this in my life. I'm going to go start a company. That was what eventually led to the Select Savory Seasonings coming into business.
Yeah, my 2 favorite stories to tell about that are Tic Tacs and Cool Whip. So Tic Tacs can say sugar-free, even though a Tic Tac is 100% sugar, because a Tic Tac is a 1 serving of Tic Tac, which is a Tic Tac, is small enough that it falls under the FDA guidelines. And then the other one is Cool Whip. It'll tell you it's 100% trans fat free, but it is 100% trans fat. That's all it is a big bowl of trans fat, but the serving size is small enough that it doesn't have to report that. And so it just goes to show that we're being lied to. And you wonder why everyone is sick and fat and unhealthy and everything when the decks are really stacked against us. I mean, you have to be very well educated. I mean, I was keto I was low carb for a long time before I really learned the ins and outs of where all the hidden sugars were. In fact, one story that I tell is my very first, it wasn't even low carb, it was just sugar-free. It was my very first sugar-free. I was just trying to get rid of the sugar at the very beginning meal that I cooked. I fried up some potatoes to go along with the meal, and I sprinkled garlic salt on it. And then because I was trying to get myself in the habit of reading the ingredients, after I sprinkled it all over my food, I looked at the ingredient list, and the ingredients were, the number 1 ingredient was sugar, the number 2 ingredient was salt, and the number 3 ingredient was garlic. And I thought, oh my gosh, here I am with garlic salt in my hand, and I can't even get away from sugar, with garlic salt. And that was really eye opening to me. It's, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble here. I can't even go to the store and buy things that I think are sugar free
Hmm.
without eating sugar. So this is one of the things I like about your seasoning is, you've got a commitment here to not put sugar in the seasonings. Well, that's
Hmm.
great. So, how do you source these spices?
Uh, I started getting online and just looking for companies that uh, will bottle product for me. I've settled on one in particular. They already had several sugar-free blends available that they would allow me to use. And so for any of the blends, I can make my own. They will basically say, okay, it's yours. We'll never sell it, but they'll bottle it for me.
Right.
I can use what they have available. And of course, for regular spices, well, they're just spices, garlic, onion, and so forth. So they'll put it in the bottle, put my name on it, and order them a couple cases at a time and keep right on going. It's a lot easier than I expected it to be, in all honesty.
Well, good. Yeah, I've last night we had pork chops with your was it Chop House seasoning?
Hmm.
Very good. My wife enjoyed it. She likes sometimes it's tricky with her because she doesn't like any spice that will burn her tongue.
Hmm.
And so I have to be very, very careful. I can't do anything with like a large amounts of pepper or anything in it. But that Chop House seasoning was very good. So I appreciate you
Yep.
sending me some samples of your stuff. So far, it's been, I think I've tried them all on different vegetables. I'm trying to remember now. In fact,
Hmm.
I just put on a pork roast and put one of your, I forget what it is, but one of your seasonings is there in the pork roast, and we'll try it again tonight. But yeah, so far it's been really good. What's the feedback been on the business so far?
Everybody that's tried them has loved them, and everybody has their favorite.
Yeah.
It's then when if you ask me what's my favorite, my answer is it's like asking who's your favorite child or grandchild.
Right.
Um, but I mean, for example, with the Chop House, I've had several people. One of them's a really good friend of mine who have said, this is so good that my spouse or my significant other, they always use steak sauce.
Right.
And for the first time ever, they never did not use steak sauce with that Chop House seasoning on there. They sprinkled a little more on and kept on eating. Uh, Another good friend of mine put the meat seasoning on some country pork ribs, threw them in a crock pot, and her boys said, "Mommy, that's the best meal you've ever cooked."
Oh wow.
Of course, I teased her. I'm like, "Well, you're welcome. I'm glad I could help you make the best meal ever." And they still, if something, she's not sure what they're going to do. Well, maybe we should find a way to use Mr. Cory seasonings.
Right.
Um, and just people online. One lady, I started a naming contest because right now my ranch seasoning is just ranch dressing seasoning. It's
Yeah.
very generic, and want something a little more marketable. And one lady said we should call it Mega, MEGA, make everything great again, because she puts it on everything. It's like, well,
That's great.
yeah, I get the point, but that might get me in trouble at the same time. But um, it's one of those. Just try it on something. Our bagel seasoning, my sister-in-law, if she could, would have that on every last thing you could think of. So the feedback I'm getting across the board is just wow. They're fresh. They taste amazing. They're blown away because people are so used to store-bought. Who knows when it was packaged? Who
Right.
knows how long it's been sitting there? Stuff. And you'll look at it and go, well, it says that there's an expiration date, but you still don't know when it was packaged. Which is why all of ours have a package date on them, because spices on average have about a 2-year shelf life before you go, it's losing its effectiveness and flavor.
Hmm.
And when we cleaned out our cupboard after I started the company, I actually found a jar that was 10 years old, but we'll leave that alone. So to help people keep that fresh in the flavor, we put when I make it. And if it gets to the point something didn't sell in several months, okay, I'll probably knock it down, get rid of it, and buy some more. But the feedback has been positive across the board. I have yet to have somebody complain and say that was horrible. What were you thinking?
Yeah. How are you marketing it?
Um, Trying to use Instagram to build the following on there, along with Facebook. Building my email list to broadcast as new products come out, new sales come out. For the rest of the year, I'm set up for Low Carb Denver as a vendor. So that's in 2 weeks, February 7th through the 11th, I think. The 11th actually is a Monday. Low Carb Salt Lake in April, I am going to be setting up for KetoCon in Austin. And then I'm hoping to get into Keto Fest up in Connecticut. I know that they're all going to be at Low Carb Denver, so I'm hoping to talk to them. But trying to get out in front of people, doing local events here near the house as much as possible, just to get in front of people and say, here, give it a try, and go from there.
Well, I don't want to name drop, but Cory Brown is somewhat of a friend of mine. I've got her on text. She has a monthly segment on my podcast, and so if you'd like for me to say something to her, I'd be more than happy to do it. But I bet she would love to have you guys out there.
Yep.
She's all about flavor and things like that. She'd love that. She would absolutely love that. And I'll tell you something else that I run into as a podcaster is I have companies reach out to me all the time, wanting me to promote their product, or they want to sponsor the podcast, or they want to do different things, and they're keto products. But man, there's so many of them that I just don't like, and I don't really want to have anything to do with, exogenous ketones. I've probably had a half dozen exogenous ketone companies come talk to me, in which there's a place for them. They are okay for some people, but I just don't think they should be a part of the normal keto person's diet. Like, you shouldn't be taking exogenous ketones every day. Just let your body make their own ketones.
Yep.
Or meal replacement shakes. There's a lot of meal replacement shakes company out there, and meal replacement bars that are keto bars and things like that. There's a place for those in the market. But I don't want to be the guy that's telling people they need to eat meal replacement bars every episode. That's why I like companies like yours, where it's something that can be a part of the normal diet. The other sponsor that I have here is ButcherBox, because I think everyone should eat more meat. And the companies like yours that are making products that fit within the ketogenic lifestyle, or even just a healthy diet lifestyle, it doesn't have to be strictly ketogenic, and are able to be on the shelf. You can use it every day. It's not something that is going to cost you an arm and a leg. I'm already buying spices anyway. I buy onion salt and garlic salt and everything else probably once a month. And a lot of Redmond's real salt, and there's spices that I use. So having a company like yours where I can pick up different blends, that really appeals to me. So I appreciate people like you who are looking at the space, finding niches, and making products that are I don't know how to say this, but they're making products that the average keto person can use all the time, and it not be a special event thing. So, what do you think about that? Can you give me your insight into this as someone who's kind of in the niche?
Yeah, I will never tell anybody that, hey, I make this, you have to use it for keto, for low carb, to lose weight.
Right.
I hear that a lot. There's some multi-level marketing companies that, hey, if you want to do it, you have to use this. It's baloney. All you have to use is real food. Like you said, the ButcherBox is a great sponsor. More meat. I will never argue that. If you saw my Instagram feed, I bought 50 pounds of meat this past weekend. So go for it. From there, like you said, everything else, they have a place. However, I don't think it's a constant daily, you should have this all the time. So if I'm traveling, sure, I may grab a keto bar to have with me on the road. I'd much rather have some Peterson Farms bacon, rip that open and a couple of pieces of bacon, and I'm good. For people who are starting out, sometimes they just need something to help hold them over. Sure, I understand that. But as I'm learning more and more and listening to more people, and for myself, and I'm sure yourself, the more you go, the less you care for it.
Right.
I can walk by a dessert table now and go, no. And if I go out to eat, you want dessert? No, I got wings as an appetizer. That's my dessert.
Right.
And sadly, that wasn't the case. Years ago, whenever we had a church function, the line to get the food would be about 15 minutes long. I'd go to the dessert table first.
Yep.
Grab dessert. My grandmother's joke always used to be, life is too uncertain. Eat dessert first.
Yep.
So like you said, I see a place for a lot of that stuff, but I wanted something that would fit anybody's healthy lifestyle. So whether you're low carb, keto, vegan, vegetarian, or you just like some friends of mine, just look, we're just trying to eliminate sugar right now.
Right.
They're not trying to jump whole hog into something and dump all of it, but if you can get rid of sugar, that in and of itself will greatly improve your health. And I got a means to help you with that. Basically want to come alongside you, support you in that process with a product that adds flavor and helps take care of some of the misconceptions about keto. It's boring. It's the same thing all the time. I need variety in my, okay, well, you want variety. I've got it. You grab any of the 15 to 20 blends I have. You could have 15 to 20 different hamburgers, and all of them are going to be different.
So one of the things with that, one of the reasons that people use a sauce like a barbecue sauce on meat is they're trying to get that Maillard reaction. They're trying to get that browning when they put their meat on the smoker or whatever on a grill. Do you have anything that helps us with that, or do you have any kind of liquid based sauces, things like that?
I don't have any liquid sauces yet. That's something I want to expand into. I do have one particular company that will basically take their sugar-free sauce and put my name on it if I want to.
Okay.
I just haven't gotten there yet. I found with most of the rubs, let's see, I did a brisket recently. I just can't remember. I used one of the seasonings, whether it was meat seasoning or the Chop House. It browned and crusted up just fine. I had a little bit of moisture in the smoker, and I think that moisture helps out. Mm-hmm. And then like with ribs, wrap it in foil, let it go, and they crisp up nicely. I think the misconception is I have to have sugar or I have to have sauce. Right. And you really don't. Maybe missed it with something to keep it moist every hour or two. But I know that brisket I did had a nice crust on the outside of it. And of course the kids inhaled that once it hit the table.
Yeah, because I bought, I think it was Walden Farms, their sugar-free barbecue sauce. And it's so sweet. It is so off the charts sweet. It's almost inedible. And there was another kind that my store started to sell, and it quickly disappeared. But it was the same. I don't think they understand that a sugar-free sauce, you can have like some stevia in it, but people that don't eat sugar don't need a really, really, really sweet sauce. They just want something to kind of make it taste. Not bitter, not vinegary. There's a little bit of balance to the flavor. But boy, I have not found a sugar-free barbecue sauce that is even close to something I would be comfortable eating. I'm not looking to replace the sweet taste. Right. I just want something that tastes good, that puts a little bit of spice, balanced with a little bit of sweet, that isn't sugar-free, browns up nice, and I can dip a little bit of my meat into it, or cover my meat and smoke it. Right. Either, that's what I'm looking for.
I know we've used G. Hughes. It's usually at Walmart. Sugar-free sauce. It usually has 2 or 3 different ones there. Which has been pretty good. I've also tried Stevia Sweet Barbecue. That's the name of the barbecue sauce.
I've never even heard of that one.
Gentleman out of Florida that, long story short, became diabetic. He's been running a barbecue joint most of his life and said, well, I can't eat this anymore. Came up with a sugar-free option. Interesting side note, on his Instagram, he's the first trademark with the word stevia in it that it was not a sweetener product. That it was something that was not sugar,
substitute.
Like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Others I haven't tried yet, but I know Alterna Sweets is another one that I keep hearing about that I just haven't had a chance to try yet. So they're out there. Of course, as you understand, in many of these cases, it's going to cost you a little bit more to get that. But hey, instead of $2-3 for the cheap stuff at the store, that's basically straight up corn syrup in a bottle. You get much better ingredients, much better product, maybe for 2 or 3 times the price, and you'll use it more sparingly also.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I'm very curious about what's going to happen now that you mentioned what's his name, Mark Sisson. Now that he's sold his Primal Kitchen brand to, I think it's Kraft.
Yes.
I'm curious to see if that means that we're going to get more, avocado oil based options
Yep.
in stores where I can actually go pick them up, because my store sells the Primal Kitchen avocado oil, and that's it. And they don't sell the mayonnaise, they don't sell anything else, but they sell that one product. And hopefully that this this partnership will mean that that we're going to get more options like that on the shelves, and also hopefully it means that they're going to keep the same quality. That's that was my first thought when I heard about the transaction, was that oh my gosh, they're going to put they're going to cut the avocado oil with sunflower seed oil or something, and not, and and it won't be the product. It won't be the reason that I like the Primal Kitchen brand. But Mark Sisson's come out and said, no, they've retained me for the first couple of years, and that's not going to happen. So hopefully it doesn't happen. But it'll be interesting to see if these things become more widely available. The other thing that hopefully this will, and this may be just a pipe dream, but hopefully this will mean that people will start to ask questions like, why is this Primal Kitchen brand healthier for us? Why is avocado oil healthier than a sunflower seed oil based or canola oil based product? What's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the future holds, but it does look like we're kind of at the very, very tip of this cresting wave of people being more aware of the food that they put into their body. Did you see that Kraft? I think it was Kraft.
It was Kraft.
Okay, that Kraft announced the other day that a lot of their long-standing brands, like their Kraft ketchup and things, have taken huge losses because people don't want these established brands. They're starting to realize that they're not as healthy as they think.
It was like a multi-billion-dollar loss in just the fourth quarter of last year. It's like,
that's staggering.
To show you, I mean, you people will dictate the market with their pocketbooks.
Yep. Yeah. So I think companies like yours, these small, batch produced, small market, companies, these are the companies that are going to thrive. Now, I mean, the next thing that I'd like to see, not from you maybe, but from someone else, is I have a hard time getting nuts that aren't. I like roasted nuts, but they're all roasted in sunflower seed oil or something like that. I think it's the next thing, is somebody that's going to be roasting nuts in avocado oil or coconut oil or something like that I can eat. The Epic brand pork rinds, I like, because they're cooked in a coconut oil, and so the more of these cheap oils that get out of our food supply, the better off that I think that we're all going to be. It's been amazing. So since you've started this business, you've obviously taken a much closer look at the food business. What have you learned? What are you seeing out there? What are the trends that you're seeing?
Well, some of the things I've been seeing is how the government allows us to lie on labels, basically.
Oh yeah. Gosh, we can talk about that for hours. Goodness, yes.
You could go on and on, but like, for example, you pick up a jar of spices and it'll say one of the ingredients is spices. I mean, that's what it says. Well, unfortunately, that's not what you and I think of. It's not like, well, maybe that's just a little bit of onion or garlic. No, that could be a chemical ingredient that they produced and can label it generically under spices. Or you see citric acid. Oh, okay, well, that's probably from an orange or a lemon. No, it's a chemically produced product. With the labels, they actually have a 20% leeway on that nutrition label each direction. So if it says there's 10 carbs, well, that could be 20% higher or 20% lower, depending on if they're in that range, you're good. Wow. From there, getting into it and never doing it before, I just really surprised at can't think of the best way to put it, the support that was there. Really, as people start hearing about it and seeing it, it's like, wow, thanks. We never realized what we were missing out on. And people I've never met, some of them I hope to meet at some of these conferences, are in various ways supporting me. They're posting on Instagram all the time. They're giving suggestions. They're offering help. Again, with reaching out to people for podcasts, going back to how am I trying to grow the business? I mean, this is one of the ways. It's just emailing people and saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's my story. Can I come out and talk? And I don't think I've gotten a no yet, which has been great. And okay, now my turn not to name drop. I won't. But one person in particular I was talking to, a very well-known doctor in the community, and made mention that I'd like to meet Jimmy Moore in particular. And I'll name drop that because he has advertised for me. And the gentleman said, just send him an email. Don't wait for him to come through town. I was never going to do that on my own had I not been prompted. So I sent him an email, said, look, so-and-so said to reach out to you. I'd like to have you try it out. Tell me what you think. And, he's like, give me a call. We need to talk about this. This stuff's amazing. It's great. And so, started advertising on his Instagram earlier this year and working through that. I'm finding advertising is insanely expensive also, as a general rule of thumb. But the support of the community is amazing. As I keep hearing more and more, and I've heard on lots of podcasts, as the water rises, all boats float. And I've even had other people reach out to me. Hey, you're specifically doing spices. I've got an idea, but should I ask you? Or, it's that I've got a spice idea, but I don't want to talk to you just in case. And I'm like, what, let me know what you're looking for. I'll see what I can do to help. It's also led me to, add to my future list of things to consider, maybe starting a separate company that has a book of producers that I can say, hey, what do you want to do? Okay, go talk to these 3 companies, basically a consultant to help people out and get into the industry, no matter what it is that they're looking at. Doing that with a couple of people now on the side, just say, hey, trying to find out, okay, can what you want to do be done in a cost-effective manner for a new company, small product launch, because a lot of companies require large minimums. It's like, yeah, well, somebody didn't want to drop 10 grand on a product if they're not sure what's going to happen. I was fortunate the way I did it. It was nowhere near that much. I mean, it was like 50 bottles of product. Well, as another person I was listening to said, the worst that happens is I've got some good product I can eat on my own.
You're right.
Use it up and I'm done. Had it been $10,000 worth, boy, I'd have been swimming in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. That's the same thing that I found with my podcast. I'm like 120 some odd episodes so far. Is that this community is very, very tight knit. Mm-hmm. We talk to each other. We support each other. We, so I was telling Carrie the other day is I've reached out to a lot of people. Almost nobody has turned me down, and the only ones that have turned me down are the people that are just too busy to to find time for me. And I've only had one person ever be rude, and that person is a chef, believe it or not, and not somebody that you've ever heard of. If I said his name, you wouldn't know who he was. And I'm not really sure why, where he got off being rude, but it's like that. It is a very tight knit community, and we'd love to help other people succeed. In fact, when I first started this podcast, so it started in 2016, I want to say, maybe 2015, a long time ago. My first 2 interviews, Vinnie Tortorich and Abel James. Those are the first 2 people I had on my podcast. And at the time, I was about 300 pounds. So I was, I was just starting off. And both of them, after the mics went cold and we were just kind of chit-chatting after the podcast was on, both of them asked me, okay, so how are you doing? What can I do to help? Yep. How can we get more weight off of you? What are the questions you need? I mean, they sat and talked to me for 15, 20 minutes after the podcast was over to make sure that I was okay and that I was doing all right. And they wanted to get they wanted to get more weight off of me. And they, in fact, Vinnie Tortorich has been on here 2 or 3 times since then. And every time he's very, very concerned with me, with how I'm doing, how he can help. And he's been amazing. And so that, and I haven't seen, I haven't come across anyone really, except for that one person who is not like that, and who isn't a big believer in the power of this way of eating, and isn't excited to help somebody lose weight. And that energy comes from me as well. Now that I see how other people do it, I want to do the same. I want to help as many people as possible lose weight. And I've had such huge success with it. And going from 400 pounds down to 200, up a little bit back to 240, but still it was a big 200 pound weight drop to do with just food. Yeah. I mean, it's staggering the power of this way of eating, and I'm happy to play whatever small role in it I can play, and it's been exciting. So you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
you've you've joined an interesting group of people and professionals that I think are doing good things, and I think that you'll probably fit right in.
Yep. Well, like you said, as you've already done, and lots of other people, of hey, I know so and so, you need to meet them.
Right.
And it's like, and then a couple times it's like, I need to meet who? I've not heard of
Exactly.
them. Uh, for example, I was the Diabetes Wellness Council, which is out of South Carolina. The lady's like, look, I got my certification for keto through, and I just forget the lady's name off the top of my head. I will email her today, and you two can get hooked up. And the lady's like, wow, I love your story. I want you on my podcast. I didn't have to ask. It was her recommendation, and seeing what we've done. She was like, let's go. For example, even with Low Carb Denver with we emailed Dr. Gerber, and I didn't expect him to respond. I'm expecting assistant, somebody. No,
Right.
Dr. Jeffrey Gerber's like, hey man, this looks like a great product. I'd love to have you here. I think it would be great. And it's like, really? Denver's diet doctor is sitting there, and it's great. These people don't, like you said, most of them don't think higher of themselves than they ought.
Yeah.
I mean, they realize their role, they're learning, they're growing, and had not somebody else mentioned it to them or a patient done something, they wouldn't be where they're at. And they want to help everybody out as much as possible. And it's a great place to be. It's a great community to be in. I love it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, let's tell the people where they can find more about your spices. Where can they order? What do they need to go through? How can they do all of that?
Sure. To order, it's selectseasonings.com, or maybe a little easier to remember, I also have myketospices.com. All goes to the same place, just My Keto Spices. It'll stick into the head a little bit better. I'm also on Instagram with Select Savory Seasonings. Same thing with Facebook. I also have another Instagram account, which is called Creative Keto Cook. I'm trying to help just show people how to make just good, tasty food that's good for them, so they can lose weight and feel amazing. I love the keep it simple, super simple method, and so that my Creative Keto Cook website and Instagram is another great place to follow me. But they can always get online, order at myketospices.com. They also can get 15% off if they use the code MySugarFreeJourney.
Okay,
and that'll be on there. They just type in the code, 15% off, and off it'll go.
Perfect. Okay, guys, we're going to put links to all of that in the show notes. You can find that at mysugarfreejourney.com/podcast. And so we will definitely put all of that in there. And you guys go. I'm telling you, I've used, I want to say 6 or 7 varieties now of the spices, and they're very good. The ranch dressing seasoning I put on my Brussels sprouts, so I like to fry Brussels sprouts. Very, very good on that. And then the steak seasoning I put on some steak the other night, very tasty. And then Chop House seasoning, I used that on my pork chops last night. It's all been wonderful. I haven't found one yet that's been bad. They've all been very tasty, very flavorful, and it's sometimes it's nice to get, because I'm pretty much a meat and salt kind of guy, so it's nice to get a little bit more variety in the flavors, and it's worth it. It's worth it so much. So Cory, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yep, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
All right, guys, those of you that are listening, hold on. We'll be right back with some more information.